The Eternals is a Marvel movie starring Angelina Jolie and Oliver Children and is directed by Chloe Zhao. I have a lot to say about this film, so hold on to your butts. The Eternals are almost immortal godlike beings, created by even bigger godlike beings called Celestials, and they've been sent to Earth thousands of years ago to protect mankind from evil creatures called Deviants. The movie takes place in present time with flashbacks to the past. Lots of flashbacks. But ultimately, the story is about our heroes finding out the truth about their mission on Earth and dealing with the consequences. I own a lot of classic Marvel comics, and I'm a giant fan of Jack Kirby. But for some reason or another, I could never get into the Eternals. And this movie is kind of the same way. Kirby created the Eternals in the mid-70s. I'm a big fan of 70s Kirby. He created the Devil Dinosaur series, which is just terrific. But the Eternals only ran for 19 issues and one annual because it wasn't very popular. These comics are not Jack Kirby at his best. I don't know why Kevin Feige decided to make a movie out of this, but here we are, so let's start with the good stuff. The cast of this movie is great. We have 10 good actors who all do their very best to make these characters exciting. Some of the performances really stand out, like Richard Madden or Kumail Nanjiani. And the movie does go into some interesting stuff. For example, Barry Keoghan's character Druig, who is able to control the minds of humans, which means he can stop wars from happening.
We don't interfere in their wars.
But he is frustrated because the Eternals aren't allowed to intervene with mankind unless there's deviants involved. I also like that Marvel is trying something different. There are very few mentions of the MCU as we know it, so this is almost like a standalone film, kind of like the first Guardians of the Galaxy. And it has a couple of great little moments, sometimes pretty funny, sometimes pretty heartwarming. And there's a certain plot point halfway of the movie that really surprised me, and I love it when that happens. However, I'm not a big fan of how this movie looks. It doesn't look like a Marvel movie. It looks like Nomadland. Chloe Zhao likes to film when the sun is low and everything is backlit, so the characters in the movie are always muted and in the shadows. It's fine for a couple of scenes, but almost the entire movie is shot this way. I mean, even the posters are shot this way. And whenever there's a scene with a quiet conversation between characters, there are a lot of static close-ups, meaning the camera doesn't move and all we see is faces up close. It's a style of shooting that works perfectly for a drama, but in the MCU, it just doesn't fit. It feels jarring. As far as the story goes, it's fine, but I never felt as engaged with these characters as I am with other Marvel characters. Take Rocket and Groot, for example, two characters that are completely CGI, and that "We Are Groot" scene in Guardians 1 still chokes me up whenever I watch it. I think that for a movie with outlandish characters, you really need someone with a strange and creative mind, such as James Gunn or Taika Waititi. For example, I love Richard Linklater, but he wouldn't do a great job directing a Marvel movie, and the same goes for Chloe Zhao. The action part of the film was shot by Dan DeLeo, the second unit director, and it's pretty much middle of the road. These are fights with giant CGI monsters, if you like that sort of thing, and the good thing about it is, these scenes are actually well lit, so you can finally see the characters.
You know what's never saved the planet? Your sarcasm.
And by the way, I'm also a tiny bit disappointed that this film doesn't have the deviant named Carcass in it. I mean, come on, look at this guy. This movie could have used a Carcass. Speaking of weird things, there are a couple of odd decisions in this movie that I want to talk about, and you know what that means. So the Deviants are set up to be the villain in this film. There are a few surprises along the way, people die, there's a big plot twist, but my problem was with one of the Deviants who was special, I guess? This Deviant absorbs the power of a defeated Eternal, and at one point is able to speak. It's in the trailer.
Any of them.
All of this is basically a subplot. Now, as most of you know, I'm an editor, and that whole part about the special deviant could have easily been cut from the film. At one point in the third act, he kinda shows up in the middle of a fight and I completely forgot about him. That's how unimportant that character is to the main story. And the other thing that really irked me was that Kumail Nanjiani's character, Kingo, just up and leaves right before the big fight at the end of the film. That was weird, to have one of your heroes go, "I'm sorry guys, I can't do this, I'll see you guys at the end of the movie, bye," Just like Jack Kirby's comic, The Eternals isn't Marvel's best. I would say this is on par with something like Captain Marvel. Maybe this movie had a little too much story and it would have been best to split it into two, because there are tons of expository scenes that would have been great if we just spent a little more time on it. And this is also the first time I'm not very excited to see what's next. I'm way more interested in Thor: Love and Thunder or Guardians 3. So, do I recommend The Eternals? I guess I do, because it's not a bad movie, it's just not as good as usual. Little side note, this was also the first time the end credit scene didn't do anything for me. All it did was make me Google One Direction, because I'm old. Oh, by the way, I am excited for that new werewolf movie coming out. The trailer looks insane. You know, the one with Brad Pitt and Kelly from Accounting? Wait. That might have been a dream.